to the Yarn and Yarns YouTube channel. My name's Angela. I thank you for joining me today. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Rainbow Ange, and we also have a Instagram account and a Facebook page for my little yarn shop, which is Yarn and Yarns. And we're based here in Penarth, which is just outside of Cardiff in South Wales, here in the UK. If you're a returning viewer, thanks for coming back, and if this is your very first time joining me, then you are more than welcome. Thank you for taking a little bit of time out of your day to listen to me gabble on about knitting, crochet and my adventures of being a yarn shop owner. So it's been a little longer than I had intended between videos, and this is not the video that I promised. So if you watched the last video here on my channel, I was chatting to you about my first 6 cast-ons for my ambitious 12 cast-ons of Christmas project. I have finished the other 6 and I will chat to you about those possibly over the weekend, but time has gotten away with me a little bit. I have been a little bit sick this week, nothing too drastic. I just had a bit of a virus over the weekend and I've been quite coldy and snotty and yucky, so I just haven't had the time or the energy to do as many things as I had hoped. But a few things have been changing in the shop over the last couple of weeks, and it's been a little while since I did a video from the shop about the shop, so I thought I would do a quick one today. I can't imagine that this is going to be very long at all, but I thought for those of you who have been following along with my adventures since I took on the shop last April, I thought you might be interested to see the few little cosmetic changes that have happened in the shop. I've also got some new yarn that I'm stocking in the shop that I'm really excited to tell you about. I probably will also show you, not probably, I will definitely show you one finished object, because I have finished a crochet blanket over the Christmas break, and it's here in the shop. It's going to at some point live in the window as a shop sample for a little while, so I've brought it back to the shop and I'm not going to lug it back home for when I do my next video about the cast-ons. So yeah, I'll show you that while it's here. In fact, I think I'm going to do that straight away right now, so I'm just going to go grab the So the project that I am really excited to have finished is my Persian tiles blanket. So I have chatted about this on previous videos while it was in progress. The pattern is Persian Tiles by Jane Crow, and the version that I've done is the Eastern Jewels. Sorry, let me just take that out of the plastic. Is the Eastern Jewels, and this was the kit that was launched towards the end of last year by Stylecraft. So the blanket was reimagined in all of these really fun colourways by a lady called Lucia Dunn, and Stylecraft Yarns brought it out as a kit to be made. So you got everything that you needed, the colour chart, the pattern and all of the yarn, for just under £30, which I think is amazing value, considering how many balls of yarn. I think there was like 15 or 16 balls of yarn plus the 2 pattern leaflets in with that kit. So I have enjoyed making this immensely. I do love a nice crochet blanket, and I do love a modular crochet blanket because you're working on small pieces at a time. There's not too much to lug around with you. The fun thing about this one is that every block was completely different colour combination. So sometimes on a modular blanket it can get a bit repetitive churning out the same blocks, but I did not find this one repetitive at all because of the colour play. So without further ado, I'm going to try and show you this. It's not a huge blanket by any means. It's certainly what I would call a lap blanket, but pretty tricky to show you on the screen nonetheless. So I'm going to stand up and see how well I can do this. So it's 4 blocks, 4 of the big blocks wide and 4 of the big blocks deep. I can't see what I'm showing you now, but hopefully you get a good idea of what the blanket is like in its finished form. So yeah, I couldn't be more pleased with that. Quite a few of my customers have bought the kit. I think I've got 2, maybe 3 kits left. So I'm hoping that having this on display in the window will maybe sell those final couple of kits. The kit does not come with the hooks. You need 3 different size hooks, but I think this is probably a project that wouldn't be tackled by a beginner. It's not difficult by any stretch of the imagination. It's one of those that looks way more complicated than it actually is. If you can, and these are UK terms, if you can do a double crochet, a treble crochet and a double treble crochet, you can make this blanket. There is nothing more complicated than that in there, but it does take a little bit of concentration to get your rounds established. So I would say it probably wouldn't be anyone's first project, but if you are a crocheter, you're going to have all the hooks you need. You need 3 hook sizes, a 3.5, a 4 and a 4.5. So yeah, for just apologies, had a couple of customers come into the shop, so I think I'd just about wrapped up chatting to you about the Persian Towels blanket. So yeah, 3 hook sizes required, but apart from that you get everything else that you need in that lovely kit. So yeah, that's the one project that I'm going to chat to you about today. I'll save the rest of my works in progress for another day, another video. Hopefully in the next few days I'll get that recorded and popped up on the channel. But what I wanted to chat to you about was a few bits and pieces that have been happening in the shop. So I've made a couple of changes in the shop. I have finally had some shelves installed under my counter, which I'm really excited about. It has made a huge difference to the aesthetic of the shop. I shall show you the unit that we've had put underneath. So yeah, I'm really pleased with that. Before it was just completely open under there, and it would be very chaotic and oftentimes untidy. I have a similar set of shelves on the back of the counter, so I'm able to keep all of the bits and pieces that need to be hidden away, stationery and bags and stuff like that, all tucked away behind the counter. Hopefully in the not too distant future I will actually get to organising the books on the front. That is going to be my main task starting from next week. So the shelving unit was installed, I think, 2 days before we shut down for our little Christmas break. So I literally just put back a bunch of books that used to be piled up under the counter onto the shelves, but I haven't actually sorted through them. I haven't organised them in any way. And then since we've come back from the Christmas break, I've not been feeling very well. And it's also been quite busy in the shop. We've got a January sale going on at the moment, so I just haven't had any time for the sort of admin and organising. So that is my task for next week. I need to go through all of the books and patterns that are in the shop, finish my cull of anything that's out of date, and get those shelves nicely labelled and the books nicely organised. That's going to make my life so much easier when people are looking for books and patterns, so I'm really excited about that. The other thing that I have rearranged in the shop is, as you came into the shop before, I had a display cabinet almost immediately in front of you as you came in. It was one of the first things you could see. And when we have our groups sat around the table in the shop, people were finding it difficult to get past that display cabinet and were often clattering into the cabinet. And I was really afraid, not so much for the things that I was keeping inside the cabinet, but it was a glass cabinet, and I was afraid that one day it would have its last knock and shatter and obviously do someone an injury. So I decided to move it into the corner by our needle. So I shall show you where that's now living. So here we are. This is the very back corner of the shop. As you can see, this is where I keep all of my needles and hooks and accessories, and I have tucked the display cabinet, the glass display cabinet, into the corner. It's not 100% ideal because it's quite a dark corner at the back of the shop, but it is so much better. It's made the shop look a lot bigger as you come into the shop, and there is no danger, hopefully, famous last words, of anyone bringing that down on top of them or clattering into it in such a way that they do themselves an injury. I did lose a tiny little bit of hanging space behind me. I managed to reorganise and rehang those things in a slightly more efficient way, so I didn't have to take anything off of the shelves at all. So yeah, I'm really pleased with that solution. And I'll just show you where the cabinet used to be and what I have done to brighten up the blank wall space that is now there. This is the view now when you come into the shop. As you can see, one of the first things you see is my lovely set of units there. They do need a bit of a tidy, but it's much more pleasing to the eye. And the display cabinet was right here, tucked in this corner, and it sort of came out into the shop a little way. And as you can see, we've got the table there, so with the cabinet there and someone sat in the chair, there was barely room to squeeze by. For now, I've put one of my dummies down in the corner on the floor there, but I think she'll probably move at some point. I haven't entirely figured that out yet, but I'm now using the wall that was behind the cabinet as a way to display a few made items, and I've got a couple more things that need pinning up. So yeah, if you watched my last video, you will have seen these lovely cabled wrist warmers from the book here, Learn to Knit Cables. So they're now pinned on the wall, and I just photocopied the front page of the book just so that people can see where the pattern comes from, and there's a little bit of blurb about what we've made the wrist warmers from. And then underneath I've got a pair of socks, and again there's just some information about the yarn that we used for the socks there. So yeah, all in all, I am really pleased with those changes. So yeah, that's what the shop is looking like at the moment, which as I say, I'm really pleased. Just a couple of small changes, and it's really made the world a difference, I think. And I've had lots of nice feedback from the customers that just those small changes has made the shop look and feel even bigger. Which for a little small shop, every little bit of space helps. So yeah, it's lovely when you make these changes and you think, you know, you've got an idea in your own head of how it's going to work, but then when you get positive feedback around what you've done, it makes the extra work worthwhile, which is lovely. So yeah, the other major thing that we've got going on in the shop at the moment is our January sale. I haven't gone completely crazy. I've got a few, I'm looking down next to me because I've got a few totes full of sale yarn. I've also put some signs around the shop, some of the cubbies where we've got sale yarn. I haven't done it too in your face, I don't want the shop to look like a complete jumble sale full of bags of yarn and things like that that are discounted. So I've gone quite subtle with the sale, but it's helping me to clear out a little bit of space. So hopefully in the new year I should be able to bring in a few more new yarns, which will be fantastic if I have the space and the funds to be able to do that. But speaking of new yarns, excitingly, for the new year we do have one new addition to our stock, and I'm really excited to have my first indie dyed yarn in store, and you can see it just by my headlet if I move my head out of the way. So the top line along there, I have some lovely yarns by a local indie dyer. Her name is Miranda and her yarn is by Miranda May, and I will just grab a skein or two so that you can see close up of this lovely yarn in all its glory. So we've got 3 different bases in stock at the moment, and I have got several different colours. I've just grabbed a couple to show you. So I have got a 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon base. These are all 4-ply yarns. So this is this one, and this is the yarn label. This colour is called Storm's End. Isn't that absolutely gorgeous? I've got several colourways in that. Storm's End, which is at the end. The next one in is called Street Lights, and the one in from that is called Chestnuts Roasting. And then I have got a couple of colourways in the 85-15 base. So this one is called Autumn Haze, and the green behind me is Nordic Forest. And then the final base that we have in stock at the moment is 100% Blueface Leicester. They're all lovely, but this one might be my favourite, but I am a big fan of BFL. And this one is the Frosted Pines colourway. So I'm really excited to have some indie dyed yarn in the shop. Finally, it was always my intention to try and bring some indie dyed yarn to the shop and see how it goes. It's a bit of an experiment. A lot of the customers here have not had that much exposure to indie yarns, so we shall see how it goes. I hope for Miranda that it does really well. She's taking a chance on me, so it's will be nice if we are able to sell some of those skeins. There's been plenty of interest in them so far, so I'm hoping that as people see it there, as so happens quite often when I bring in new yarn, people will see it, admire it, and then it will sort of sit on the shelf, and then they'll be thinking about it when they go home, and what could they make with it, and then all of a sudden, it becomes popular and everyone's buying it. So fingers crossed that happens with this. I'd love to get a little bit more into dyed yarn, because that's my passion. So I think this year, as well as focusing on trying to develop a proper website for Yarn and Yarns, I shall be perhaps reaching out to a couple more indie dyers. It's nice to have local, but I'm not necessarily going to just have local dyers. If I can get a few others to express an interest in taking a chance on the shop and stocking their stuff here, then brilliant. We'll see how that goes. Only time will tell. So yeah, I think that's probably everything that I wanted to chat to you about today. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope it hasn't been too boring. I know I'm conscious that obviously a lot of people are interested in the knitting and the projects and the crochet, maybe not so much about the business chat, but I hope some of you out there do find it somewhat interesting. And I love recording these videos because I think it'll be fun, whatever happens in the future, to yarn on yarns, whether we succeed or fail. I think it will be fun for me to be able to look back and remember this really fun journey that we've been on. So yeah, if you do find the shop updates a little less interesting, then please bear with me and just indulge my my selfishness by continuing to record these. I think they're becoming less frequent as time goes on, just because you know, less and less. That when I first took over the shop, lots of things were changing all the time, but now it's becoming a lot more how I initially imagined it. I'm sure things will change. It's still less than a year since I've taken the shop over, and I'm still learning every day. So I'm sure things will continue to change and develop, but it's at a less fast pace than it was initially. So I think a lot of my videos now are about the projects that I'm working on, but it's fun to stick one of these in once in a while. Yeah, so I think I'm going to sign off there. Thank you so much for joining me, and as I say, for indulging my shop talk. And I hope whatever you're up to, you are having a wonderful woolly cosy day. It's quite a grey day here in South Wales today, but it's dry, which is nice, and it's not ever so cold for January, so yeah, hopefully I shall see you all again soon, and in the meantime, big woolly hugs to you all.